Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of the Good Days Attorney Chronicles. Last episode, we were getting info about Giselle Brett, and we got Mr. Vigil's info about Osogi's will, which seems to have disappeared. But this episode, we're hoping to get more out of the will by hopefully we can go to the prisoner's governor office and asking Kalen if he knows something about the will. But anyways, let's just go. Because he has worked in the prison before. Ooch, back again, are you? Yes, hello? I heard all about your investigations. I read about the report just now. You found him, eh? Vigil. Yes, luckily. Well, anywho, the laddie does not have no work here no more, so your case is not to do with Buckley. I wouldn't like you to get into the wrong idea about that. Yeah, of course, yes. Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so... Yes, we've seen his dismissal before notice, haven't we? He was given the chop. Hey, come here. You can very well. So how about a wee handcuff biscuit? Oh, they're really like little handcuffs. They're hard as irons, too. So what brought you here done today? Well, there's something else we'd like to ask you about, actually. Is that so? We believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Osogi's cell. I think it's called the Osogi Papers or something. No? Did I know, say, good sense has nothing to do with things that might have happened at Berkeley. Leave the past in the past, laddie. Let's not fool with elaborate details. His expressions changed completely. Of course, it has something to do with it. We're clearly onto something here. And before we do that, might as well we already explored the place. Alright, let's just converse. 10-year-old legacy. That murder about execution and the whole miserable escape. They were Barclay's darkest hour, eh? A shocking embarrassment. But because the convict had a collaborator on the prison staff, you mean? Aye, for shame. The coroner who confirmed the death of old man after his execution, Courtney Syfe, and my chief warder at the time, Vigil, who was in the charge of the whole affair. Mr. Vigil says he didn't know anything about it. They'll ask who and they say otherwise, eh? More handcuffs. Oh, how could I say no? You can never have too much iron on your diet. When Mr. Vigil was handed his dismissal notice as a result of what had happened, he was so despairing, he jumped out of your office window, didn't he? I didn't like to say, but that's just Vigil's trying to get out of it. Do you not think he would have just jumped from the shock of his crimes being exposed, eh? I do. You wouldn't say otherwise, though, would you? Of course, I cannot shun all responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anybody here that kens with what went at the time now. We Gregson have been murdered, and Dr. Syfe forbidden with having any visitors. No visitors? Someone obviously doesn't want giving anything away. Well, I'm not gonna be holding him empty-handed. I wouldn't have dreamed of sending you back with now. Come here. Here, take another handcuff or two. Oh, would it be rude to say no? Wouldn't want to become anemic? I suppose. If there's anybody who might still be caring about what happened back then, it'd be that last from the forensic division, Maria Gorey. Maria Gorey? Aye, Sate's daughter. He did not have many more than just the one. But the Witty's bars followed in her man's footsteps. You did not ever see her without a scalpel in her hand. Ah. Oh yeah, your daughter is... Crazy daughter is... Mama, what is this? Where did she spring from? And did he just call Dr. Mama? Oh yeah, she did! Maria Gorey checked the autopsy. Site star Maria Gorey. What could do with talking to her? Gorey. So, she's Dr. Sight's daughter, but her surname is Gorey? Hey, there's some funny history, I'm sure, but I did not care the ins and outs of it. Too good of watching her ma'am working with the bodies of the folk who died in strange circumstances and decided to do the same with her own life. I cannot understand it myself. Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother. Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of the Gregson's autopsy, I believe. Right, and that coroner responsible for this incomplete report. Someone told me once that the wee lassie also loved her mom's stories about cutting up bodies. There's even a rumor that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby. Well then perhaps her mother might have been told her about the autopsy from the case 10 years ago. Aye, I say there's a fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us. Really need to speak to Miss Gorey about herself about this, I think. Does she have a grudge against us? Because we fucking, like, made her guilty? Well, thank you very much. I'm no happy about any part of this. It took years of Londoners to finally forget the whole professor business. Can you no give up on this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions. I'm sorry. I don't like dredging up these painful memories for everyone. Can you no stay away? No? Can leave me alone and then I come back here, eh? The Asogi papers. How did you come with a boot about that, laddie? There's no many folk in even the prison who heard of these papers. Ah, well, I can't tell. Mr. Vigil told me. I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir. We've been led to believe that the papers are actually a last will and testament, is that right? The professors, or rather, Genshin Asogi's. Hey, that's right. You're well informed, Jimmy. Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? Then after the convict's execution, it mysteriously vanished from his cell, didn't it? Hammers, no, you're off a half-cock there. Half-cock? I think you did not quite get your facts straight. It was there in the cell, exactly where it should have been. Oh, not what we've heard elsewhere? Images of a wee hook around here. I'm sure I can find it. Here you are. See? The last one, Testament of Genshin Asogi. Written with a calligraphy brush. Of course, I cannot read a word of those Japanese scribbles, but I mind it says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland. Yes, that's correct. That's the gist of it. Why is it there of all places? So these are the Asogi papers? Hey, of course they are. Papers written by Asogi, they doubt about it. There's no mystery here, laddie. That's your lot. The order said I mentioned this last time an execution. We sent the man's possession back to his clan in Japan, and that was the end of it. I think we ought to make a record of this, Mr. Naruhodo, just in case. Asogi papers have been entered into the court record. Let me check the court record. One thing before you go on your way, Mr. Naruhodo. Hold up. While my death, all material wealth belonging to me in London delivered to my son, Kazuma, in the Empire of Japan. I accept my fate in this foreign land, and acknowledge I'll never see my homeland or family again. I regret nothing about my chosen path. Does that include the sword? Yeah, that would include the sword too, right? Interesting. Perhaps this is has Cosma seen this or no? That's what I want to know. Has Cosma seen this? I want to if we ever see him, I want to bring this up to him, can we? Oh, yes. Those papers are not to do with Gregson's death. I prefer it if you did not make no mention of them outside this office, or rather, I would not just prefer it, consider it an order from the highest levels of government. Wait, we can't tell Kazuma? I want to tell Kazuma. No? Fuck. I really want to tell Kazuma, but I guess not. Or can we? Can we? I want to present... Fuck. So we can't present it to Kazuma. Alright. Oh, prosecutor's office. Just say, Kazuma-sama, visit. So, this is the office of Prosecutor Sugino, is it? Kazuma-sama is doing so well for himself. The question is he really obsessed? He sure is, but even though he's always forced to kneel to the floor, on the floor, Japanese style in that dark corner, it's his habit to sit aside style whatever he's working. Kazuma. I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I? Sorry? That you have all the makings of a great defense lawyer. Well, I always believed in you fulfill your dream of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second I would be as a prosecutor. Seeing you stand in a foreign courtroom, so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama, I'm truly happy for you. I am truly thankful for you too, Judicial Assistant Mikotoba. Ryunosuke. I always thought it would be fun for you to decide to shake up the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisioned it, but I suppose it's just another twist of fate. I learned a lot of things during my time in London, about how Susato's father was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Joku, and what happened with your father. Then you'll have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice, why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself. I want to hear it from you, Kazuma. As you wish, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Lord Von Zeke's fine collection of hollow chalices and bottles all neatly lined up. Oh yes, he's extremely particular about all of that. He has a strict regime for everything, from the storage to his casks to the bottling of their contents. Gosh, he must be really having a tough time with being an apprentice. Well, actually no. Oh? He's so particular about it all, he refuses to let anybody else touch any of it. So it's been quite easy for me, in fact. Talk about weird. I have a lot of things to explore in this room. Alright, next up, chest. There's Lord Von Zeke's incredibly stylish deck. It's not my style, though. No, I noticed you've been working a little table on the floor, kneeling down Siza style. That was some kind of punishment set up by Lord Von Zeke's when I first saw it. I find it most comfortable way to work. I can't do it. After a couple of minutes of sitting with my legs folded under me, they start to go tingly. Don't exaggerate, Ryunosuke. We both know that you can't even manage a minute. Do you know who the man in the portrait is? That's, Clint, right? Why would I? Nani? But you're Lord Von Zeke's apprentice. Yes, apprentice, not friend. And during the time I was suffering from amnesia, I didn't even notice that picture. Oh, really? I mean, it's not the smallest picture. I wouldn't have the first idea what the man decorates his office with. I mean, that should be obvious. What? It's a scale model of the crime scene. Oh yes, I realize that. Does the prosecution office make a model of the scene for every single case? Apparently so. Sometimes it helps me visualize things better and notice things that you hadn't spotted before. Actually, the miniature notice what is my work. Be honest, you enjoyed making that. Have swords to the ceiling, just like the last time we were here. Handled barrels, I suppose. They're arranged according to vintage, flavor, and region. Every week, they're all taken out and put back into order. What? Every week? Lord Von Zekes can't seem to set on the perfect way of arranging them, you see. Vintage, flavor, and region don't neatly coincide. That's the trouble. Gosh, being his apprentice must be a real challenge. Actually, no. Oh? He considers the task too important to entrust anybody else, so he does it entirely on his own. So he's a barrel of laughs here and in court then. Is that it? Hello, bats! You disturbed the bats, did you? Fitting companions of Lord Von Zekes, wouldn't you say? Actually, I've seen things flying in Strongheart's office too. Doves, I think. Perhaps you have the like birds attain rank in the judiciary here. Although bats aren't birds, of course. Yes? How about a sparrow for you? What's that supposed to mean? Oh, nothing, sorry. Just thinking out loud. Alright, I think that's it. Alright, let's talk to you, Cosma. I wonder if I could present something to you. It's getting on for a year now. What happened on the SS Spiria? We're heading across oceans from Japan to Great Britain. When a bizarre series of coincidences led to those tragic events where an innocent girl was going to prison for attempted murder for some odd reason. I thought I lost my best friend forever. I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I awoke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posy of flowers by the pillow. It took me a while to realize I was in the cabin of a ship. I stepped out of the room and headed up onto the deck. Were you already suffering from amnesia at that point? Oh yes, I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just this voice in my head. You have something to do. Something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain. Your task awaits you there. It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. On deck, I saw that I was on a huge steamship and we were docked in a large port. It must have been Hong Kong. Yes, it must have been, presumably just before they were due to carry your body off the ship. I had no idea of the situation, but I did have a feeling that this was some way my last chance. Sholmes? Was Sholmes involved? It has to be Sholmes, isn't it? So I concealed myself along the disembarking passengers and went ashore. And then I disappeared into the crowded streets of that foreign port city. So I planned my onward journey to Great Britain. Your journey to Britain. Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me, the sights, the sounds, and the smells. My head reeled, and I was truly at a loss. I realized that I had escaped as a dead man, with nothing but the clothes on my back. No money, of course. Oh, how terrifying for you. Luckily though, I had 2 feathers in my cap. One being your knowledge of English, I suppose. Oh yes, that's right. On the back of that, I was able to pick up some work as a deckhand in a cargo ship. Eventually, after culling at countless ports, I finally arrived at Dover. That must have been like 3 months ago now. Your formidable tenacity of purpose showing itself again. I mean, the man had lost his memory and had literally nothing to his name. But he still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world. Of course, I had no idea why I moved heaven and earth to get here at that point. So, how did you end up becoming Lord von Zekes' apprentice then? That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck, really. You see, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers. They took me straight to Scotland Yard, and by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend a meeting. That's when my second feather in my cap came into play. Would that have been your knowledge of the law? Oh yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious about an Easterner with intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back to him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office. And then 9 days ago, you were there. You finally got your memory back after the trial involving Drebber. Oh yes, I did. Your father, Genshin Impact? Ever since I first met you at Yume, you talk about your dream. Mark my words, Ryunosuke. I'll be chosen as a visiting student, make my way to Great Britain someday. Did you know the entire time about what happened to your father here? 16 years ago. When my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. We took a photograph together on the day before his departure. It's my last memory of him. But what I remember most about my father is his unswerving sense of justice. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called at our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It was the Professor Mikotoba, your father Susato-san. Oh my. Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped me fund my university education at Yume. I'll be forever in his debt. But nevertheless, I couldn't bring myself to believe what he told me. Oh. Then one day, a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There was no indication of the sender, so I opened it, assuming it was my old acquaintance from my father. What I read in that letter changed my entire life. What did it say? It said my father had been in a mass murder, and the writer had cursed the Sogi name. Yeah, that's the gist of it. Oh no. As a result of that letter, I had been been hidden me from all those years. Yeah, letter from Britain. Presumably the letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. If whoever been a member of the judiciary, he could have been accepted president at the closed trial. The revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for his being a killer. I'm so sorry that you have to find out that way. I imagine that the British government did its very best to silence whoever did that letter. For someone who knew the truth and couldn't bear the resentment was always going to be a problem. But still, it couldn't have been written by anyone. Would you believe such a thing? There was a newspaper cutting including with the letter. Well, it was the first I've ever heard of the professor and his terrible killing spree. Wait, what? Hold up. Well, what did my father have to say about the letter? I couldn't bring myself to show it to him. Nani? Why not? Because he deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling me my father was deliberately taken by a fatal illness. That couldn't have been easy for him. And he done it out of consideration for my feelings. So instead I showed him the letter to Judge Shijoku. To the other visiting student. He faltered for the brightest moment, and then he just laughed the letter off. When that moment I saw in his face, he was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily before recovering his poise. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the stream of grief and she too passed away. And that's when I made up my mind. One day, without fail, I would cross the seas of Britain and seek the truth for myself. The truth about my father, Genshin Asogi. I won't let anyone stand in my way. Oh, Kazuma-sama. The Reaper's trial. What we learned today in court turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lore in Ryunosuke. Naruhodo. Lord Von Zekes isn't the Reaper, you know? I almost don't want to believe it myself, but it turns out that Inspector Gregson himself was... It's clear that the Inspector was behind the Reaper's activity all along. What? You mean... The real question is, who's been giving orders to the Inspector? Yes, Barack Von Zekes is the real Reaper. You still believe that? I know that 10 years ago it was him who decided my father must be a mass murderer and sent him to his grave. No, he was merely seeing that justice was done as the law dictates. He's not to blame. Ultimately, it's people who condemn people. The law is just a tool that they use to do it. And when a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions. Of course, he must. But no, I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life. Kazuma. On the contrary, my father's life was taken by the Reaper. You still believe it was literally Von Zekes? No, it wasn't. Alright? Can we present this to you? Kazuma, what do you make of this? There's only one place where defense lawyers and prosecutors should discuss evidence, the courtroom. So it seems you're still confused by the situation. That's what I make of it. I get the feeling my friend's always gonna have the edge over me, isn't he? Damn it, didn't work? Fuck. Okay. Then what about the... I don't know. Oh yeah, the autopsy report. Because... you know that we got in this autopsy report, and I already know this is already, like, fake. This came up in the trial, didn't it? As something a little dubious, I mean. The fact that no time of death was recorded on Inspector Gregson's autopsy report. Yes, there were always some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everyone by surprise. The idea that the victim died of the previous day at some other location is quite something. Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped and the scorch marks on the candle, it's certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence and the scene both point to it. To be honest, it bothered me too. So I paid a visit to the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible wasn't there, but I got a name. It's Dr. Gorey. If it wouldn't trouble you, Kazuma-sama, we'd very much like to speak with the coroner too. Of course, the last thing I want for is anything to be brushed under the carpet. Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory is behind Lowgate Cemetery. By the Barclay prison, you mean? You know it, do you? The prison where my father was incarcerated and robbed of his life. Kazuma-san. Well, thank you. I'll pay a visit to the laboratory later today. Yeah, we need to talk to Gorey about this. Ryunosuke. Hi. I want to thank you. What for? For this. You safeguarded the soul of the Sogi clan. Well, it is a famous sword that's been in your family for generations. My only slight regret is that I never got the chance to draw it before I returned it to you. Karma is said to have been forged by the master of a swordsmith during the Sengoku Warring States period. And I come from a long lineage of warriors, many of whom were expert swordsmen. Well, then you're a chip off the old block, I'd say. This blade, Karma, is the symbol of the Sogi clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for a surname. Really? Karma. It does sound formidable, that's for sure. 16 years ago, when my father was a visiting student here in London, he had this sword forever at his side. Which is why it means so much to me that I have it by my side again, now too. And that is all thanks to you. It was an honor. Now, I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said a little too much. Kazuma, you've changed. No, Ryunosuke. I haven't changed at all. It is you who's changed. I completely understand your resentment toward Lord Von Zekes given what happened, but the fact is, those events in this case are, well, unrelated? Is that what you want to say? How can you be so sure? What do you mean? Never mind. The man is the Reaper, and it's for that reason that the inspector was killed. I'm gonna prove as much in court tomorrow, by whatever means necessary. You sure about that, Kazuma? You made a bad assumption of accusation towards Von Zekes. And now we're here, thinking you have the right answers, but you don't. We can easily solve this in the trial. Couldn't let you do that, Kazuma. I know you do what you have as a lawyer, but I'm sure I don't need to tell you. I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom. I would expect nothing less. Until tomorrow then, in the Old Bailey. Well, next up we'll be going to Dr. Gorey's forensic laboratory. We haven't been here in a while, have we? This place really is creepy, isn't it? Well, being the dead room, it's probably full of the spirits of the dissected. But actually, there's rather pleasant scent of the roses in the air. Well, being in the dead room, the coroner probably needs a bold scent like that to mask the odor of death. Iris, do you think we could change the subject? What was that? Uh-oh. Dr. Gorey? She has her mask on. Nani? That noise before. I was sharpening my tools. I'd be dead meat if I didn't keep a perfectly keen edge on them. Right. When the falling of the collagen fibers in the dermis, an expertly sharpened scalpel cuts like cheese. Wouldn't you like a demonstration? No, I don't like yondeers, but... Oh, yes, please. I'd love to see... No, Iris. Please. Then, I think you'll do nicely. Huh? No, I wouldn't do nicely at all. I mean, maybe some other time. No. Don't say some other time. That means it's gonna happen. Was that us tucked? Well, we came to ask questions, so... Let's examine the place. A table and a set of sharp tools. When you consider each in isolation, it looks quite innocent. So why is that when you put them side by side, they seem so horribly disturbing? Might not be best to ponder it too deeply. That's Mama's dissection table. It's too high for me, though. It is? I fell from that height in my sleep. It would really hurt. Nani? But you mean you sleep in here? Autopsy where it's very involved, it's usually too late to think about going home when I'm finished. I have bad dreams when I sleep here. I always end up falling onto the floor. So I'd like to exchange that table for a lower one. Maybe you should just go home. Those large jars seem to have pale things floating around inside them. Supposedly fruit liquors or something, like the pickled umeboshi plums we make back home. Yes, let's assume there's something completely innocent like that. Ah, that jar you're looking up there contains monkey brains. Oh my. The composition is similar to the human brain, so they make for interesting study material. And in the next jar along we have monkey. No more monkey anythings, please. If you say so. Oh dear. Time when I still thought it was just some pickled umeboshi plums seems so long ago already. Umeboshi plums. Yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah, look at all those bottles on the shelves in these cabinets. What an assortment of chemicals. These ones here are labeled highly toxic. Ugh, that's worrying because there are also things that look like salt and pepper shakers in there. Oh yes, and they actually say salt and pepper on them. The doctor probably spends a lot of this time in his room, I suppose. Perhaps she has meals in here sometimes. Life goes on, even when you're surrounded by death. This looks like different who before. Of course, Mr. Naruhodo. Miss Gorey is a young maiden. She has all sorts of charming little dolls and the like around her place. Look. Ah, yes, you're right. Perhaps she's not so strange after all. They're how I practice. Sorry? Mama always says that operations all in dissections always require speed and accuracy. So I take out my needle and thread it with stitch with 3 new dolls every day. Ah, right. I used to make livers or kidneys or intestines. But Mama told me to make something more friendly instead. That's quite different to what I imagined. Yeah, very uniquely different than what happened before. Well, look at this. What a magnificent display case. The cherry wood has been polished to a high sheen. Intricate carvings a joy to behold. Western cabinet makers really are very skilled, aren't they? It's 10 people. Pardon? It's made from the bones of 10 different people, all mixed together. Some of my best work. Okay, I am very terrified now. I was admiring the case, actually. The scary skeleton inside is something I intend to ignore as best as I can. You're strange. I wonder who is the strangest? An owl? That looks like an owl and a crow up there. I know, and they haven't even twitched since we came in here. Well, no. They wouldn't have. They're taxidermy mounts, Mr. Naruhodo. I was afraid you were going to say that. I've been trying very hard to tell myself they're just sleeping with their eyes open. Yes, I think perhaps you were just wise to put something out, something like your Darwin on display in the office instead. I think that's it. Time of death. We actually have met before. I'm a lawyer, if you remember. You're not dead yet, Nunny. So Mama said I wasn't to cut you open. She's so strict about things like that. Well, good. Dr. Sai has some scruples, at least. Oh dear. It looks like she's not interested in talking to us for the time being, anyway. For the time being, you mean until we die? Hope that's a way off. Sorry, but I wasn't planning on dying anytime soon. Surely there's some less drastic way of making her listen. Let's talk about the autopsy report, I guess. You mentioned that you were the autopsy report. Dr. Gorey, we actually came here to ask you about this. He was very good. Good, sorry. His skin didn't snag my blade once, and very little mess. His joints dislocated easily, and his muscle tissue was a pleasure to work with. We can skip those details. Fuck me. Okay, sorry guys, I had mic problems, but there's one thing about the report that's caught my attention. You don't seem to have recorded a time of death. Well, hello. That's not my fault. Oh, that made me jump. Well, hello there. Then please tell us what happened. You really are the daughter of Dr. Safe. So, why doesn't this autopsy report include the victim's time of death then? It's really the most crucial detail. I was told not to write about it. What? By whom? Male Strongheart, the Lord Chief Justice. He came here. What? Why would he not want us to know about the time of death? The fuck? The fuck is Strongheart doing? Lord Strongheart came? He said that from the witness statements about the gunshot and the other evidence, it was obvious. Man clearly died at 5 PM on 1st November when the gunshot was heard. But that's not the type of death you wrote on the report. You didn't write anything. Was there some reason you didn't include it? Dr. Gorey, if you're hiding something under Lord Strongheart's instructions, and sooner or later you're going to go the same way as your mother. Give it here then. Oh yeah. It's like the last case where she had to make up evidence, hide evidence. There, you've written. Nani? What she's written? Tell us. Indeterminate, but the details of the autopsy have been updated in the court record. Hold up a second. Hold the fucking second. It's just measures may have been taken to disguise the time of death. Wow, it's really... So they can't determine the time of death, really? Indeterminate. What do you mean by that? What was the time of death indeterminate? Why was the time of death indeterminate? When the specimen was brought in, it was still fresh, so the time of death could easily be coincide when the gunshot was heard. But there was one small discrepancy. What discrepancy? There was some fried fish in the pocket of the specimen's overcoat. Yes, he likes fish and chips. And that fish had started to rot. Nani? If the victim had liked fried fish, he usually liked to eat it before it went off. Well, yes. What are you really trying to say? It's possible that someone tried to manipulate the apparent time of death. Manipulate the... Is that even possible to do? Theoretically, if you were to chill the body in ice, you could delay the onset of putrefaction. If the overcoat wasn't on the body at the time, then only the fish would have started to rot. But today's science is not yet possible to determine the body was chilled or not. Today's science was advanced enough to let you freeze a corpse, it seems. But surely, to chill a corpse like that would require an enormous electrical refrigerator, and I don't imagine many households in London are equipped with such a device. No, definitely.
Maybe in a factory, some other special places. I don't recall seeing any factories or such like in Fresno Street, though. I wonder, if the inspector body has been shielded somehow, what might actual time of death have been? I couldn't say for sure. But at the most, it must have been a day earlier. No. In other words, it would corroborate your previous deduction, Mr. Naruhodo. That Inspector Gretchen was killed a day before his body was discovered, at a different location. Did you inform Lord Stronger of this possibility? He simply said that there was no electrical refrigerators of that size in the vicinity. Oh yes, one other thing. It's something the governor of Barclay Prison told us. That your mother, Dr. Saif, was responsible for confirming the death of the professor after his execution. The professor. Apparently you always enjoyed listening to your mother's stories about her work, so we were wondering if you might know something about what happened 10 years ago. That's not all Mama did. Sorry. My Mama carried out the autopsy report of Clint von Zekes as well. Nani? Really? The brother of Lord von Zekes, the professor's final victim. The idea of carrying out an autopsy of the member of the aristocracy was completely unthinkable back then, but the detective in charge of the investigation insisted it was miraculously authorized. The detective being Inspector Gregson, of course. Quite an accomplishment for one man. The autopsy provided a vital clue needed to arrest the killer. And Mama was there for that historic event. What does this all mean? Well, that amazing autopsy happened right here in this very room. The professor and Clint von Zekes. They both spent their final moments before their burial in that dissection table there. So the slab Mama's lab was instrumental in some of the country's most important events. She really is proud of her mother. What if you tell us more about exactly what happened back then, Dr. Gorey? Confirmation of death. Professor's execution was Mama's big first case. She had to be in attendance at Barclay Prison's execution chamber and sign a certificate to confirm the convict's death. And Mama was the best coroner in the world, you know, so I was proud of her. But the execution didn't actually take place because, you know, he escaped. No, and worse still, Mommy actually helped with the jailbreak. I didn't want to know. Oh dear, you found out recently, you mean? I believe in her, and Mama, but now I'm wondering if I'm starting down the same path as her. You mean because you omitted the time of death on this autopsy report? That's because Lord Stronger forbade you from including it. Just like Mama, I'm sure she was coerced by somebody too. Yes, that's my feeling as well. There's no doubt there was powerful forces at play 10 years ago. The execution could have been staged without a lot of people at the prison knowing about it. Obviously, the prison governor must have been in on it as well. Kalen. Big man with the little handicrafts, according to what he told us. But he was strict by the chief warder. He says he knew nothing about it. Of course he said that. I'd say the same thing. Because who was behind that jailbreak all those years ago? Clint's autopsy. You mentioned the autopsy of Clint von Zekes. It was at the time when carrying out autopsies of murder victims was very unusual. Still, it's not a practice that's observed in our country even now. It turned out it was a professor's final victim. When the autopsy was performed, Mama was present, although only as a secondary assistant. The person leading the procedure was called Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, that's right, that's my dad. And there was one other person present, the primary assistant. He was a visiting student from the Far East. No way. Wait. Visiting student? Genshin. It's been my... Oh, Mikotoba. I had no idea Professor Mikotoba had been involved in something so important. But the outcome of that historic autopsy was the discovery of a vital piece of evidence that led to the capture of the professor. That's how they came to identify Genshin Asogi as the infamous mass murderer. Do you happen to know anything about that piece of evidence? Can you tell us about any more? Would you like to see the records for yourself, Nani? Would that be alright? What's the point of keeping records if people can't look at them? They're all filed under V at the back of the cupboards, and at the other records from the last decade. Thank you. Let's see. Von Zekes. That's strange. Nani, Mr. Naruhodo, Dave, aren't here. There's nothing under Von Zekes. There must be. Perhaps somebody took them away. Strongheart! You were here earlier. It must have been Strongheart. No one's allowed to take documents related to the Professor case out of this. It's Strongheart. But you are right. They're gone. Well, when was the last time somebody looked at him? Do you remember? Strongheart, you son of a bitch! Oh yes, I remember. It was 2 years. Oh, never mind. A consulting detective came one day, saying that he'd like to see the records. No, you don't mean Gregson. Herlock Jones was. What? Gregson, we need a. How about talk right now? Deep down, I knew that was coming. Do you think he stole the records? Oh no. Surely not. Iris, that can't be right, can it? Oh no, you know something? Iris? Iris? We had to talk to Gregson. Where the fuck is Gregson? I don't know. I hope you don't mind, but... What is it, Iris? I just remembered something very important I have to do. I'm gonna have to leave you now. Wait! You son of a bitch! You can't just run away! Oh, this is very sudden, Iris. We'll come with you then. Oh no, there's no need. You and Nuno can take your time here. Bye for now then. Good luck. Oh, you son of a bitch! Why? Wait a minute, little girl. Me? I remember now. You've been here before, haven't you? Oh, shit! Have you, Iris? Yes, 2 years ago when that detective came. You were with him, weren't you? You were a living specimen then, too. That's the way it usually works, yes? Well, was I? I don't remember. You son of a bitch! Are you trying to hide shit from me? Anyway, sorry, I must dash. Wait, Iris, you come back here right now. Give me some evidence! I believe what's pot for you when you get home. Give me the evidence! What's the matter with her? She's behaving like really strange all of a sudden. Well, in that case, we won't keep you any longer either. It's been quite a while since I had visitors. This was really fun. Next time you came, I prefer you were ready for dissection. I don't really think we need to... I can't make any promises, sorry. It's a bit strange that the records of Clint von Zekes have disappeared. Autopsy had disappeared. I think we asked all we came to ask now. Alright. Damn, 54 minutes? We literally only talked to literally 2 rooms. Wow, I'm guessing we're gonna end this off here, are we? Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of the Good Ace Attorney Chronicles. So next time on the Good Ace Attorney Chronicles, we're gonna be continuing the investigation. See you guys all next time.